I usually try to start off these videos with some kind of clever little intro that ties into the videos. I've been trying to do that more this year, and I think it's been working out nicely. But given the fact of the subject matter of this week's chapter, as well as the fact that the holiday season is upon us, and I almost forgot to wear my festive hat this year, as I have worn in years past, I don't know, things kind of got away from me. So insert clever segue here, I suppose. But honestly, this chapter is, well, not a fun one, especially considering, Christmas is this week. So it's kind of awkward and all that. But hello, Internet. I am the hero of Julios once again with another One Piece chapter summary. This week's chapter is chapter 1169. My death cannot come soon enough. That's I mean, with a title that happy, you can't help but get into the festive mood. So yeah, the art this week was really cool though. We got this lovely color spread of kind of a what could have been. I always alluded that Rox gave off some very Luffy vibes throughout all his way of doing things. Yeah, he's got a little bit more of a head on his shoulders when it comes to his intelligence, but Rox really did believe in friendship. Rox really did end up believing in love near the end. But Rox also had a very strong crew that looked really good in suits, just like Luffy. So we have, for our color spread, a strong world inspired, just 2-page color spread of the Rox pirates. You got them kind of just interacting with each other. Rox has this really cool pirate in front of him, he's got a tiger in front of him. Gonzwe's eating some grapes. I mean, the whole crew's there, and it's just it's really nice. Honestly, it's almost like a what if they had stuck around, if they had been the crew to end all crews. Maybe they would have been they were their generation's Straw Hat crew, but I guess if you really think about it, Buggy is closer to being this generation's Rox. I mean, Rox has Newgate and Linlin and Kaido, and Buggy has Crocodile and Mihawk and probably Gecko Moria, probably Doflamingo. I could very much see all the warlords gathering together in Crossgill. That's a theory that I've been clinging to for quite some time. I kind of let go of Kuma being a part of that theory, so maybe I need to revise that theory later. But enough about Rox and how he's similar to Luffy and Buggy. Let's get into the actual chapter itself, which starts off 14 years ago as Shanks learns that Roger has a son, which is kind of neat. Also, this is where Shanks is. Shanks is in Elbaf. So when Shanks went missing, and that became the opportunity for Harold to get his, promotion, this is because Shanks went off to do other things. Inevitably, Shanks will eventually go to lose his arm, but we actually learn a little later in this chapter why that might answer a question that's been on everyone's mind. Regardless, though, let's talk about the revelation of Roger having a son and Shanks being pretty shocked about it. Apparently, Gabon heard about this from Garp, so even in this great pirate era, Garp is still keeping in touch with the older members of the Roger Pirates. I don't know if he ended up talking to Crocus at all, or if he's talked to, any of the other grown-up members, but we know at least Gabon and Rayleigh probably have spoken to Garp on a few occasions between then and now. Of course, finding out that Roger had a son, Shanks immediately decides, whoever this kid is, he is clearly my little brother. And Gabon says, that's true, you and Buggy were definitely our sons. So we had the classic 3 men and a baby scenario, but there were actually 2 babies. So no update on how Buggy became a member of the crew, but obviously he was on the crew long enough to be considered a son of Roger alongside Shanks. Shanks goes on to say, well, since, that's the son of Roger, obviously he's going to go on to be the next king of the pirates, and Gabon tells him, well, you really shouldn't go by that. It's not exactly a hereditary title. It's not something he's not a king, not the kind of king where succession comes in that method. In fact, sometimes when that much expectation is put on someone's shoulders, they fail to reach it. Too much pressure and, the pot bubbles over kind of thing. So we all know what happens to Ace, and a pirate king he does not become. But we don't have much time to converse about Ace being Shanks' little brother. We instead cut to Harold, who just hurt one of his own men because they were trying to put chains on him. And they're, asking King Harold why he attacked that man. And Harold is asking himself this because, yeah, he is officially losing free will. His body is not responding to his brain anymore. In fact, he doesn't even say anything to his guards, so I don't think Harold is able to speak right now. It's clear to Harold that he's not going to be able to hold on much longer, so he's just kind of waiting out for Loki and Jarl to arrive. Meanwhile, we cut back to Shanks, giving us a bit more of an explanation on the contracts that Eam forces onto his subordinates. Shanks and Harold, as far as Shanks knows, have the shallow contract, which we now know Harold doesn't, but Shanks doesn't. But with this contract, it is like the deep sea contract in that you cannot deny Eam's orders. The difference is you can't deny Eam when you're within a certain range. That being said, he had to actually exit Marie-Joie, travel a little bit with Harold before the two of them were free to talk without Eam being a part of it. With which we get a flashback within a flashback, because we get those sometimes, of Harold holding Shanks in his hand, and he goes, "Oh, I get it, you are of the Red Hair Pirates." So, did Harold meet Shanks, then meet Shamrock at Marie-Joie, then meet Shanks a second time at Marie-Joie? Or is there a Red Hair pirate crew that came before Shanks? Or, I'm not exactly sure how the timeline lines up on that one, because Shanks did have a ton of bandages on, and he did have like a really fancy coat, and we know Shanks dresses like a homeless man. So maybe Harold just didn't recognize him because of all the bells and whistles and the big bandage across his face. It's just kind of weird that Oda put so much emphasis on, you look familiar, and then the very next chapter brush it away with, "Oh, you're red-haired Shanks. Duh, I should have guessed based on the red hair." Shanks and Gabon then continue on their conversation, and Shanks tells us that he is concerned for Harold. He is worried that Harold is giving in too much to Eam, that obviously this seems like a big, huge trap. I think the next time I talk to Harold, I should probably, really come clean and tell him, like, "Hey, man, I don't think this is a good contract. You and I, we need to find a way to get rid of this mark on our arms. We have to do something about this before he can say anything more, a big, huge burst of hockey comes from the castle, and the two of them, obviously feeling the giant rush of hockey, start heading towards the scene. We then cut to said scene as Loki and Jarl are entering the palace, and we get to the scene that this whole flashback started on, but now, instead of Loki looking at the king, we are behind the king looking at Loki, as we see numerous men stabbing into Harold, and Harold thinking to himself, "Oh my gosh, I can't actually die, and I can't deny orders. Oh, this is bad. Loki, glad you're here. Jarl, glad you're here. Come on, guys. Somebody put a stop to this." Harold continues to tell Loki and Jarl, "This was a trick. I was set up. I failed. I failed. I did everything I could to try and get the world government to allow Elbaf to be a member nation, but it was all for naught. They had no intention of ever holding up their end of the bargain. I am the most foolish king in all of Elbafian history. I don't deserve the title I have. This needs to be taken care of. Loki, I need you to slay me. And the only way you're going to do that is by eating the sacred devil fruit. Jarl, let him do it." Obviously, Jarl and Loki are both very confused, and he says, "Listen, if I get to that fruit, it's game over. And you're my son, Loki. I trust you. Please, do it." And that's kind of his last order as king. He wants them to tell the truth. He tells them to tell the people of Elbaf what really happened today. Tell them about the world government's betrayal. Tell them that I am a foolish king. Tell them that you had to slay me because of it. And tell them that you had to eat the sacred fruit to stop me from getting to it. Because again, it's game over if I do. So as Loki is running off to get to the fruit, because there's really not enough time to even think about what's going on here, Jarl tries to stop Harold, but Harold takes his sword and stabs it through Jarl's skull, which, it's okay. You know, as we know in the main modern time, his helmet protected him from this attack, so he's fine. But with that stabbing, he immediately turns his attention to Loki, and in his controlled voice says, "I must be the one to eat that fruit, Loki. Please, son, stop, as your father I command you." And Loki, not arguing at all with this, he's just booking it towards the treasure chamber. Harold begins to pursue, and that's when Gaban and Shanks both hit him with big old slashes of hockey-infused power. Still not enough to take him out. So, okay, we know that the regeneration process can be slowed, so this obviously will slow them down enough, because we know Harold dies, so we know they've overcome this somehow, but right now it ain't looking good. But that's okay, because Loki does make it to the treasure chamber, and he sees the treasure chest with the sacred fruit in it. He's okay, I got, there's the hammer there, that's a sacred treasure of our people, gotta get the fruit. And that's when the hammer starts wiggling. And that's when the hammer starts laughing. And then the hammer flies up and starts swinging towards Loki. Gonna say that wasn't on my list of things I thought was gonna happen. I thought maybe, it's like Mjolnir, it's kind of like I'm worthy, so it will come to me kind of thing, but I didn't think it was gonna laugh, unless that is the laughter of someone else lifting the hammer. But I don't know. This is an interesting one. But Loki is one chapter away from eating this fruit, which means place your bets. There is no new chapters next week, and there is only, I'd say, maybe 2 or 3 more chapters in this flashback before we cut back to Loki tied to a tree saying, "And that's how it all happened." I'm going to stand firm on my original theory about this. I think the sacred treasure, the sacred fruit of Elbaf, is the Gum Gum fruit. And I don't mean the Gomu Gomu no Mi, which was secretly the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. I think that it is actually the rubber fruit. Because, as Vegapunk said, in the recorded history, because Vegapunk read the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, I debate he even wrote it, but we don't really have proof either way, there is no such thing as the Gum Gum fruit. That's because the Gum Gum fruit was never recorded, because the Gum Gum fruit was passed down from owner to owner in the sacred treasure of Elbaf. The fruit was never properly eaten. It was just a trust me, bro. I think what happened is somehow during the Void Century, when Joy Boy unfortunately lost and the Gum Gum fruit, or the human fruit model Nika, went into rotation, I think the Giants of Elbaf found the Gum Gum fruit, which looks identical to it, and said, the human fruit model Nika, we shall keep it safe until the next Joy Boy, or until the next Nika, who will either destroy or rebuild the world, whatever comes first. And we will put it in our treasure chest, and we will say it's the sacred treasure, and we won't open it until Christmas. Well, it's Christmas, and Loki's opening it, and Loki's gonna eat it, and Loki's gonna stretch his arm, like Nika, and say, "Oh my gosh, I have Nika's power." Not really questioning it any further, because why would you? Your body stretches like rubber, and the Gum Gum fruit doesn't exist. So, what conclusion would you come to? The other theory I've heard that I really like is that we actually have 2 Nika fruits. There's the human fruit model Nika, liberation model, and then there is the human fruit model Nika destruction model. Because there is such a dichotomy between the interpretations of the Harley text as to whether or not Nika will destroy the world or free the world. And we know devil fruits are the result of mankind's desires, so who's to say that if the dichotomy of opinion is so vastly different, you get two vastly different powers. The best example I can come up with this as an example is the difference between the snow fruit and the ice fruit. If I said, man, I really desire the power to become ice, and somebody else says, man, I really desire the power to become snow. To most outsiders looking in, that seems like the exact same thing. Snow is just frozen ice crystals falling from the sky. But with enough time, with enough thought, with enough interpretation, you realize there is a stark difference between snow and ice. Ice is hard, firm, still malleable in terms of what you can carve it into, but otherwise a firmer substance. Snow is light, airy. As you could see, Monet even was able to pseudo-fly with it. Now, granted, she did have harpy wing arms, but I could imagine if your body is snow. Oda said himself that the ice fruit is stronger than the snow fruit. However, I could also see it having similar but different abilities. That being said, who's to say that the Nika fruit can't be the same? So, aside from that, we kind of didn't really cover much this chapter, and I don't mind that, especially since, we're about to hit the new year. Really not much else to say on the matter. It's been quite the year, hasn't it? We've traveled through Elbaf, well, that was mostly last year, and we saw the life and times of Rox D. Zebek, who turned out to be Davy D. Zebek. I think Roger kind of lost some points with me, but managed to gain them back a little later. Rayleigh has a really cool backstory. I didn't realize Shocky was the one that caused all of this madness. And most importantly, we learned the origin story for Marshall D. Teach, and we might actually see why he wants to destroy the world. Or if the world refers to the world, or if he wants to destroy Emu. However it goes down, I'm looking forward to next year of One Piece as always, and I certainly hope you are too. Merry Christmas from me as I celebrate that holiday of the Yuletide season. But for the rest of you and yours at home, thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.